Hi.
Hi. I must have, I closed out and came back in and it looked different. So,
all right. Good to see you all. Awesome. So welcome, everyone. Great to have you. We're super excited to have our team talking a little bit about putting food within reach and starting your own community fridge and food hub. My name is Victoria Della Rocca. I am with Food Rescue Hero and work with partnerships. And we're so excited. We have Lisa and Carly and Aubrey. And I'll let each of you sort of intro a little bit about yourselves and talk as we kind of move through that. Lisa, we're going to go ahead and start with you. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and Patrick can actually cue up some of those slides.
Sure, happy to. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you, Victoria. Great to meet everybody. I'm Lisa Miller. I am based in Houston, and I manage food partnerships for Second Servings of Houston. We are a small but mighty food rescue nonprofit addressing critical issues around food insecurity in Harris County, which is the greater Houston metro area. And in so doing, we also address climate change because we only rescue surplus food from grocery stores and wholesale distributors and sporting venues and arenas for prepared surplus food. And then we immediately, same day, redistribute all of that wonderful food to food insecure Houstonians, mostly living in areas that are out of reach to full service grocery stores through our pop-up grocery program, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carly Bragg. I am the Director of Operations for Food Finders in Southern California. We actually have been operating for 34 years. Our mission is to rescue food and reduce hunger. We service 4 counties in Southern California. We probably bring in about 13.1 million pounds of food a month. And we also distribute same day to a surplus of partner agencies throughout the 4 counties that we serve.
hi, I'm Aubrey Alvarez. And up until last month, I was actually the co-founder and executive director of Eat Greater Des Moines, a nonprofit in central Iowa that was working to fill the gap between all the food that we have and all the people who still need it. So we've had a lot of, I think, partnership and kind of putting food where people are has been a big focus of the work. And so even though I'm not at Eat Greater Des Moines, I'm excited because now I'm hoping to help you and help others with community refrigerator networks. And so I'll be sharing more about how we helped launch our first community refrigerator in December 2020. And now when I left, we had over 80 that we had helped get started. So I'm happy to share about that.
So exciting. Lisa, if you want to go ahead and dive right in, we'll have Patrick load those slides.
Happy to. Thanks, Victoria. So I'm glad to be part of this conference. It's especially pleasing to be with all of you who are doing this fine work and bringing food to areas that are concentrated with people in need. And thanks for having me. Next slide. Second Servings. So we began operations in 2015. Our founder, Barbara Bronstein, thought that she was retiring from Uncle Ben's rice. She had a long, successful career in marketing. And then Barbara attended a banquet in Houston and saw that all this gorgeous prepared food from the banquet was about to be tossed. And she grabbed it and took it to a local soup kitchen that evening and accidentally became a founder of a nonprofit. And since then, we have had 10 million pounds rescued in the first 8 years that we have been operating. We built a network of over 400 food donors throughout the city, and these are grocers and wholesale produce suppliers, and NRG, which is a huge stadium where the Houston Texans play. They have all kinds of concessions that would be going to waste if second servings didn't rescue them. We are today picking up 9 pallets, over 15,000 units of peanuts from NRG today. So things like that. And our vans are a fleet of 5. We're about to add another one. They're refrigerated cargo vans, and they cruise all around the city. We have a logistics manager who's dedicated to putting them on routes to do pickups and drop-offs. And our model is such that the vans start out empty. We don't keep any inventory here in our warehouse, just empty vans, and they cruise around, pick up, drop off all day long, come back to the office empty, and then do the same thing 5 days a week, all over again. And we just started a Saturday route, which has been great. We service over 200,000 Houstonians, and that is growing. Food insecurity in Texas is not going away. I'm sure all of you can relate to the numbers, but our food insecurity rate in Texas is 1 in 7. And with 40% of grocery store food being wasted every day, we're just closing the gap, and happy to do it in a professional, efficient way with our model, the same day pickup and delivery model. Next slide. I created the pop-up grocery store program because I saw that grocery stores were our biggest supplier of consistent, fresh, beautiful food. And we have a community issue here insofar as deserts are aplenty, food deserts, food swamps, massive amounts of those all over Houston. So this really brings the grocery store experience to people who can't access fresh groceries. And we do this in a number of ways that you too can probably start wherever you are. We bring the groceries in the vans, we pick it up, deliver it to, let's say, a community that's in a food desert where there might be senior living housing for upwards of 250 seniors who have no mobility, no transportation to get to a full service grocery store, and there isn't one there anyway. So we basically bring the grocery store to them, and we set it up in their community center right there on the premises of their apartment building. And we have volunteers both on the property management side and that work just exclusively for the pop-up program. And they set up these grocery stores. Now, what does this do? A couple of different things. It addresses behavioral health because it gives people a dignified self-select shopping experience versus getting just a cardboard box of stuff that they might not even want, that someone else chose for them. So that's the first wonderful thing about it. It provides access to fresh, nutritious food because everything that we're picking up from the grocery stores, produce, beautiful dairy, fresh meats, fruits and vegetables like you would not believe, are thrown out every day at the grocery store for having just a little nick or bruise, or they're about to go out of date in the next couple of days. To push that out for new inventory, we grab all of that, capture it. So it's thousands of pounds that we're bringing to these pop-up grocery stores and setting them up just like a market. The average van, our cargo van, picks up about $10,500 worth of groceries for each pop-up that we do, and we do 40 pop-ups a month throughout the city. So today we have 3 going all at once, different locations in food deserts all around Harris County. Each shopper, when you do the math, is going to get about $70 to $160 worth of groceries per person, which may not sound like a lot, but for some of our families, especially those who are getting the last of the hot weather Houston air conditioning bills, and these are working families who, have to fuel up their cars and deal with inflation at the grocery stores. This really helps them shepherd through the months before the SNAP benefits run out. And SNAP benefits are what we call the former food stamps. And we try to schedule the pop-ups around when families are running low on SNAP benefits. Again, the self-selection is everything. People, you and I probably take it for granted that we go to the grocery store and we can pick what we want. A lot of our insecure food communities are not able to do that. So even though they're probably getting stuff from the food bank system, which is great, and that's pantry, shelf-stable items, this is fresh stuff that they get to choose what they want and what they leave behind, what they don't want. And it also gives them a great opportunity to try new things. We had a senior lady who had never tried lamb chops, and we picked up a bunch of stuff from Trader Joe's. And she, for the first time, picked up these lamb chops from our pop-up, risk-free, prepared them. And she said she and her husband, this is the only thing they want to eat now. So we're able to also do nutrition counseling very informally because we can offer the fresh stuff. There's goodies on the vans too. There's cupcakes and cakes from Whole Foods and all that good stuff. But this allows people who are especially impacted by health issues to have exposure to things that might be a little better for them. And we can sample foods. We can even have somebody doing like an Iron Chef thing at a table where they're taking anything that comes on the van and quickly making, you know, cutting up peppers and cucumbers and making a quick dip for people to try. So it's a really fun way to engage the community. Neighbors are talking to neighbors, they're recipe sharing, and it's been really successful in uplifting neighborhoods. Next slide. Who benefits? Low-wage earning households, working families, like I mentioned, who are on very, very limited food budgets. Low-income, fixed-income seniors. We go to a lot of community centers that have senior day programs, and after they're finished with their programming there, they go into the community room, and there they'll see all this beautiful food set up and arrayed really pleasantly for them to choose from. We just added on a new veteran site. I went down to the Lone Star, yay, Texas Flight Museum just the other day, and in partnership with a veteran support service called Combine Arms, which wraparound services for veterans, we're going to be doing pop-ups at the Flight Museum. They have a beautiful facility, and they're going to allow us to come in once monthly and serve active duty veterans who are on very limited budgets. So we're excited to do that. The other thing that people don't think of a lot is college students. University of Houston is a commuter school here. There's a lot of food insecurity. People are working, going to school. Sometimes they're first generation students. We're doing a pop-up at the College of Medicine, believe it or not. You don't think of medical students as being food insecure, and they come in and out of it, but some of them are living on 20 grand a year just to kind of pay their tuition. They have kids, and this really helps them get their bills paid. And all of this is free. It's free to the donor, which is the grocery store, and to the recipient site. And next slide. Where do pop-ups take place? So you can pretty much do this anywhere, except we don't do anything outside. The weather in Houston is just not safe for food to be outside. So because we have so many perishable items, a lot of those clamshells of grab-and-go tuna and sandwiches with mayonnaise and things like that, it's a big no-no. It's got to be inside. We just started working with the public school system here in Houston, which is called Houston Independent School District. And they are doing wraparound support, again, for their elementary and middle school children. And they approached us to start working with them in YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs. So on Saturdays, I have one on this Saturday, in fact, we'll be taking our pop-up show to a YMCA in an area that really needs support. And then the kids get auxiliary services through the school system, like grief counseling. The parents can come and get rental assistance, financial counseling, and food is really the draw for all of these other support services. The families come for the free shopping experience, and then other organizations that we kind of loosely partner with set up their tables, and they can draw people in to get basic medical care and all those other support services that I spoke of. Community centers are a great place to do it. Churches have wonderful facilities because a lot of times they have full-on kitchens with refrigeration, which is very important. Schools and universities, we've been very successful setting up in those locations as well. Really no end to how creative you can get. You just bring it all to them and teach them how to do it, and it becomes very streamlined and successful. Next slide. I almost said next pop-up. Onboarding. Okay, so interviewing for qualification is something that I'm kind of a stickler about, just because everybody wants free food, right? So you have to determine of all the phone calls you're getting, who's going to qualify. And one of the qualifiers for our apartment communities, low income housing, or what we call affordable housing communities, is that they have a certain percentage of units that are dedicated to low income. And I have a formula that I use for that. Then I walk through the facility and I take a look. Is it clean? Is the food going to be kept safe? Is there a refrigeration? Or can they get coolers? Is the space where they're planning to have the pop-up appropriate for what we do? And I'll show you a great little video in a second all about that. And then if you want to have a pop-up, you really have to come and see one in action, because I can show you the training video, which all of you are going to see in a second, but there's nothing like seeing it live. So we actually have an observation day today. Somebody who's thinking of having one and considering it is going to come and work one to see that, hey, this is not kidding around. It's all hands on deck. That van is coming with 2,000 pounds of food. And so you guys are going to need to get your staff ready for it. Agreement to our program guidelines really just includes a pledge from the recipient site to keep the food safe and to have people at the ready to set up. And then we schedule it. I have my calendar, there's 40 going, and we always try to make room for everyone. We can usually accommodate 3 a day, but if it's a big, big one, like we have a community center up in Houston's 5th Ward. Beyonce is from Houston's 3rd Ward, and there are ward systems here. So the 5th Ward is a historic area. It's under-supported, and we have a wonderful community center that's been in existence there in the 5th Ward for 80 years. They have this extraordinary gymnasium, and they have about 150 people that come to our pop-up. So that requires me to schedule 3 trucks with our logistics manager. Some of the pop-ups are smaller, in smaller apartment communities, and they only need 1 truck of food. Our deal is we don't want any of the food going to waste, so we try to gauge who needs what depending upon the size and the number of attendees / shoppers. Next slide. Here's a training video I talked about. So if you're interested in setting a pop-up, this is how you do it.
Lisa, I love seeing just the attention to exactly how they're sort of putting these systems out. You can see that you really set up a lot of guidelines as to how to do this safely, how to make sure that they feel comfortable doing it, and kind of took a lot of the guesswork out of that, which is wonderful. I think it really also resonates in seeing those coolers that you're keeping some of the things in, especially with the heat in Texas, as you mentioned. And just the dignity on food choice, right? Just being able to come where they are, especially within hubs and environments where individuals would find other resources at the same time. So it becomes, you know, an all-in-one resource. And food definitely does bring people in, that's for sure. So exciting.
Yeah.
And I noticed in the video how you also instruct how to even set up notifications and do things so that goes over their social media, which is really exciting as well, and a great takeaway as to how to help them promote that the site is going to occur and when it's going to occur, and create some regularity to food access in that way. Thank you for sharing that video. I see we're ready with that next slide.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it looks like nobody got the sound on the video, so that must have been quite a drag. It's supposed to have wonderful sound, so sorry about that. If anybody wants the video, I can send it to them. So sorry about the silent movie there. It's much more engaging with the sound. Host site.
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely really informative to watch that journey, and I think we will send that out afterwards for everyone.
Sure, of course, yes. So thanks for going through that silently. So host site responsibilities, as you could probably gather from the video, there are some logistics to coordinating a successful pop-up grocery store. And you have to promote it. And one of the ways you can do that is with these flyers. You can do it digitally. The nice thing about working with communities that are apartments or multi-service centers are that they already have a core group of folks that they can reach out to via email or via text messaging. And we've even had people during the event texting their friends and family. So if it's something that isn't controlled in terms of the number of guests, we open it up to as many people as we can feed. Assigning staff to facilitate the pop-up is great. You've got to have the buy-in from the site host, and sometimes they're running very thin, like apartments that maybe have an assistant property manager and a property manager and 2 maintenance people are often our most challenging, because the maintenance people are the ones that are typically on standby with the dollies and, you know, wagons and crates to help offload the van. Our drivers are making several stops after they drop off the first load, so they need to get out of there, and they stay on the van and hand off these banana boxes full of assorted groceries. And the only way to make that efficient is to have somebody on the recipient end that's raring to go. But if the maintenance person is called off duty, you know, called to duty, and they're working on a plumbing issue in apartment, you know, 5B, and our van pulls up, obviously they're on the other side of the property. So those are the only things that as a manager of the programming, you would have to oversee. And when you have 40 going a month, you have to just keep the due diligence going to make sure that everybody's getting a quality experience. Plus, our drivers are paid. A lot of volunteer drivers, you know, may not be comfortable, you know, talking to property managers. So you want to school them and maybe coach them a bit and say, hey, you know what, next time we come, please have the dollies ready and have some staff to help us unload. Arranging food by categories once the groceries are unloaded takes a bit of time. We are fortunate in that we have a volunteer arm that's exclusively designated to doing about 25% of our pop-ups every month. So they're real pros. They're going to meet me on Saturday at the Y, and I know when that van comes, I've got about 15 people wearing our vests, ready to get through those boxes and sort them according to grocery categories, because we pick up when we go to a Kroger or a Whole Foods Market or a Trader Joe's, we're getting food across grocery categories, and we set it up that way. And you can have a lot of fun with it. You can make signage that says bakery or produce and dairy. And we did one with kids at a school several months ago, and the kids made all the signage themselves out of poster board, and each had a station to distribute to the shoppers who were adults. So it was really an exciting, fun way for them to spend their after school hours. And assisting shoppers. So a lot of our seniors are formerly chronically unhoused and disabled. So they'll come in walkers. A lot of them are hearing impaired, sight impaired. We assign them with a personal shopper to go through the line with them. Some people can't even get to the pop-up, and they can experience the benefit through us packing a grocery bag for them and having someone deliver it, not through second servings, but through the site. So that's also another thing. Or families can shop for families. You know, if the pop-up's in the middle of the afternoon and you're working, you can ask your neighbor to pack up a bag for you. You have to limit the amounts. That's something that is always a judgment call, because we never know if we're getting 1,500 pounds of groceries or 2,000. We usually don't have enough crates of eggs for every single shopper. So short of, you know, giving each person an egg, which is impossible, some people are going to get eggs, some people are going to get milk, that kind of thing. And your volunteers need to be well versed on how to diplomatically handle those situations. We have found that people are very gracious on all counts, and have never had anybody fighting for eggs, at least not yet. Cleaning up after the event is typically up to the site. However, sometimes our volunteers will help break down boxes and just put them in a corner. And there are a lot of crates and boxes. So that's a really key thing, to try to leave that room as you found it after a 2-hour event. It takes a little organizing. But once you get the hang of it, pilot it a couple of times, you're good. Next slide. Post-event evaluation. So I meet with everyone that was involved. We talk about, hey, what worked, what didn't work, where are areas for improvement, and there's always something that we can improve. One of the pop-ups I did not long ago through a partner food organization, where we brought our trucks and then they augmented with their supply at a church in a very under-supported part of Houston. We ran into the following. They had to report a lot of data on their consumers, on their shoppers. We don't. They did, and it took a lot of time for people to get registered. And there was a lag time between the time they registered and they had to sit down, because we like for people to have a dignified experience. We don't want 50, 100 people converging on the pop-up. So we stagger the attendees in the line. So we typically, depending on the amount of folks that are attending, we do about 10 to 15 people at a time, sometimes 20, depending on how big this space is, so that everybody gets a chance to kind of mull over what they want and go through the line slowly, like a real shopping experience. But we got backlogged because their registration, they all had iPads, and they had to get name, rank, and serial number from everyone who attended. So in the postmortem, we discussed all of that, and we're going to streamline it. We're planning our next one for November. So we're all learning here and making modifications before the next one is scheduled. And you can have something formal to where you have a form to do that, or just kind of wing it. Next slide. Benefits. So many have organically evolved out of this pop-up program. I can't even believe it. So Food Bank always has corporate service days. You know, gas and oil company XYZ will go and pack lunches at the food bank in Houston. Well, we're kind of doing the same thing. There's a lot of gas and oil companies here. They like to have service days, and you don't have to be a gas and oil company to participate, but all of these corporate sponsors have come to work with us for a couple of hours in group volunteer settings. So we schedule them. We have a way for them to register just for a pop-up. I kind of pick the ones where I know it's going to be an experience to where the site has some history or it's an interesting population. And they come and they do a 2-hour volunteer job at the pop-up, and typically they want to contribute to second servings as a result. And we are not federally funded. We're all locally and individual funds and grants from local organizations. So it's really helpful. They're not paying for the food because, again, the food is rescued food. It's free. But they are contributing to our organization to help offset our operating costs, fuel, and we pay our drivers, and we have a small salaried staff. So that really helps. And they're also really engaged in the community. And people love to see that, hey, you know what? My grocery store that I shop at every day is not wasting this food. It's going from point A right to point B, right in my neighborhood or the few neighborhoods away. And hey, I didn't even know there was so much food insecurity just across the bridge, that kind of thing. Then we do get a lot of press. The pop-up has received a lot of attention because it is such a sensible, valued way of, you know, cutting down on food surplus and feeding people who need it. So we've gotten coverage, you know, on a national level and on a local level through the local papers and reporters and podcasting and all kinds of channels that you can imagine. Next slide.
Lisa, I'm going to jump in real quick. This has been we're so excited to hear about so much of this. And I know that a lot of our other rescue organizations have looked at this model and ways of bringing food within reach in areas that have been food deserts or access to it too. Some of the burning questions right now that are hitting the chat are what you do with leftovers. So, you know, this whole direct to connect with so many of the different places. What happens with those?
Great question, and I love answering it because it is part of the training. If you're a site, you're going to find yourself, especially with bananas, and it's bananas, how many extra bananas there are. So part of the training to qualify a site is that question: what are you going to do with the leftovers? And unless we get an answer that makes sense to us, since our mission is zero hunger, zero waste, we need to know that it's going somewhere. Most of the food that's leftovers is stuff that either isn't culturally appropriate, and we try to do a really good job of addressing that up front so that it minimizes that risk. But if there are leftovers, usually what happens is the site will make up bags. And if it's an apartment complex, for example, that has 650 units, maybe a third of that will come to the pop-up and the rest can't make it during the hours that the pop-up takes place. So the property managers know who's who in the neighborhood, in the complex, and in the community, and they make up bags for them. They require refrigeration. They keep all the perishables in the cooler or in the fridge until, let's say, the evening, because pop-ups typically take place between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And so if you're working, you just come at night and get your stuff after work. One of the other sites takes some stuff to families and delivers it, or they take it to a sister property, because a lot of these apartment communities have sister communities. And no shortage of places to take the food, but great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the unique benefits of really bringing these access points within communities, because the leftovers sort of naturally become integrated into spaces where people live and play, right? And so, you know, if there's a great distribution plan, it might look different at different sites, but how you incorporate that is fantastic. One final question for you was just, if you're utilizing, and I think you started to speak to this, but ID requirements or limits to how much a person can take.
So we place the limits after we eyeball how many attendees we get, and we try to get that up front. A lot of the sites will do an RSVP style registration so that we can get a sense if we need to send 1 or 2 or 3 vans to the site, the volume of food that we need. On occasion, we'll even bring in a partner who may have some surplus, a pantry that has too many grapes from the food bank. They'll augment with that if we need it, like I will for the YMCA this coming Saturday. And then we do place limits. So you can put a little, sign up on each table that says, 1 per family. So it's not 1 per shopper, because you'll get folks where there's parents or caregivers and then 2 kids. It's 1 bag per that unit, per that 4 people. So that's really important. So you want it to be a really upbeat, happy time. And at the same time, it's important to train your volunteer staff or whomever is working the stations with the groceries and doing the distributing to say, hey, you know what, just so that we have enough for everyone, we'll have to just limit this to 1 right now. And you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think setting expectations is a big part of that, and helping everyone to feel engaged. Thank you so much, Lisa. This was absolutely incredible. I want to go ahead and move to Carly, because we have been chatting about these pop-ups, and it's incredible. Carly, if you want to go ahead and we'll have Patrick share your screen and dive right in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you, Patrick. So Food Finders, again, just a quick overview. We are servicing probably about 300 nonprofits over the 4 counties. We have over 300 relationships with food donors throughout Southern California. So that's any food generator. It could be manufacturer, distributor, farmer, grocer, events, hospitals, schools. We will rescue food. We have a small fleet of trucks that go out every day and pick up our larger palletized items. And then we have probably about 100 volunteers that are out there doing more of our tier 2 pickups, being at the grocery stores or different venues, bakeries, restaurants. And then that food is directly taken to a partner agency. We try to be very strategic about who we partner the food with. We don't bring anything back to our warehouse. We make sure that that food stays in the community in which it's coming from. So we will partner an agency in the community where the food generator is at, but we take it a step further just to make sure that they have same day or next day distribution. And if it's next day, they have proper storage and refrigeration for that donation. Moving into our food hub, we realize that on the west side of Long Beach, it's a food desert. There's absolutely no grocery stores over there. We have probably, I believe, 9 partners in that community. However, they lack refrigeration. So all of their distributions are just shelf stable food items. So they're lacking the nutrition value. Even if some of these families, have SNAP benefits, they don't have access to nutritional food. So, I mean, they can go to the corner liquor store and buy chips or go to McDonald's, but they don't have any nutritional food. So we took a cold storage container and placed it in, it's called Admiral Kidd Park. We actually have the Boys and Girls Club that's right there. We have a partner agency right across the street, another one down the street. So what we do is we take nutritional or nutritious food. It's all fresh. It could be dairy, meats, produce, and we'll fill the container up and then allow our partner agencies to access that food and take it back to their agency for their distribution. In addition to that, we have a community marketplace. And I'm sorry, Patrick, you can actually go through the slides. I'll just keep talking. So this was the why and who actually benefits from it. And then the resources, which I'll go into a little bit more. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. And then the next one. I'm sorry, I just start just talking and just keep going. So we also do our community marketplace, which is the fourth Saturday of every month. That is our one and only direct distribution to the community. We're very also strategic about what we place in there, just to make sure that we are providing food to those that we're serving, that's culturally desired. So if we're taking demographics and we have a heavy Spanish or Latino based clientele, we are going to purchase food that is going to make sense to them, and we want to make sure that we're not putting anything to waste. We are supporting the hub through grant funding as well as donated rescued food. So if we put donated rescue food that maybe a lot of people are not familiar with, for an example, leeks, we're going to create a recipe card. We're going to create a tip card on how to prepare it, how to store it, how to cook it, and then create a recipe surrounding that as well. You can move to the next slide, please. And again, I already went through this, so I'm just going to keep going through. Here's the community marketplace, and it's just not a food distribution. We really try to engage our corporate sponsors, our volunteers, anybody that can offer any additional resources. We don't want it to just be about food. We want to create nutrition education. We do cooking demonstrations. Again, the recipe cards. We invite the city to come out. We have Healthy Living Long Beach, which is eligibility workers that come out and teach people about the benefits and additional resources that are offered to them, as well as educational materials. We do have a nutritionist that is on staff that puts educational materials together as well. But then we even take it a step further and invite our corporate sponsors to get involved. If it's a bank, can they come and set up financial literacy station? If it is a dental office or dental insurance, can they come and provide dental kits? We really, really are trying to pull it off strings and get everybody involved. When we first opened the community marketplace last year, I think we had 100 people. About 40 people. It has now grown to about 175 people that are coming to the community marketplace. So, and that's just those that are attending, but we do capture demographics in a very simplified, dignified way. So I want to see it's about 575 people that are being served currently. I know one of the questions to Lisa was, how do you determine how much a person receives? And we do that through our demographics. So if a person shows up and we ask them how many people are in the household and they have more than 4, then they're receiving 2 bags of food. I know another one of the questions to Lisa was, what do you do with the leftovers? We try to have a contingency plan in place. So one, we'll have a partner agency ready to pick up if we have anything left over. Or we let the folks know that are in line, because oftentimes they will say, well, can I take a bag for the neighbor? Can I, take one for a friend? We want to make sure that everybody there is served. I am not letting anybody walk away without taking food with them. So we'll invite them to come back at the end of the event. And if we have anything left over, then we'll share that with them. Okay, if you want to move to the next slide, please. And I talked about this too, just kind of collaborating with the community. The city will offer a lot of support, or our city has offered a lot of support for this program. Again, they do provide us with demographic tools the eligibility workers, the WIC eligibility workers that come out. But the nice thing is they really helped us promote this by using their digital platform to actually publish this to the zip codes that are serviced in that area. But we also connect with our partner agencies that benefit from the hub. They have distribution days. They will generate flyers, or will generate flyers so they can hand it out to the people that they're servicing, so they can come to the community marketplace as well to receive. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Victoria.
No, it's awesome. And it's such a great, collaboration, and being able to sort of see how this looks for second servings, how this looks for food finders, and thinking about the utilizing sort of a storage container to act as an access point in an area of need where you're distributing to partners and also doing a pop-up out of that same space, and also collaborating. I love the idea of getting so many individuals involved and having everyone sort of bring something to the table. It's such a great concept. I know we want to make sure we have time for Aubrey too, and
yes.
It's so exciting to get all of this information in. I would love for you to share any action points that you feel like, if somebody is interested in doing that, what that might look like.
Sure. I would say, again, just collaborating and getting more people involved. If there is a very powerful takeaway, it would be to create a sponsorship deck. And there are so many opportunities to bring in corporate sponsors. They can have signage, they can have banners, they could have different stations at the event, and that will certainly help fund the program as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Aubrey. Jump on in there. Oh, you're muted.
All right. And is Patrick able to pull up my slides as well? Hopefully. Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about kind of like what Lisa and Carly, I'm really going to be talking about a smaller version of this, which is community refrigerators. So community refrigerators really, they're really just I kind of consider it like the break room for a community, where it's a place where people are able to share excess food, and it's temperature controlled. So we see a lot of like free little libraries and free little food pantries. This is just that with temperature control. So that's really this is actually a picture of the first one that we got started. So community refrigerators, this wasn't my idea. It wasn't our idea. It was something that a partner reached out. So this is actually a picture of one of the first fridges I helped launch in December 2020. So you can see that this refrigerator, it was one of our urban farm partners called and said, hey, it was the middle of the pandemic. There was still a lot of, just like usual. I think that was the thing, during the pandemic, I think it shined a light on all the challenges in food insecurity. And just because people are wanting to go back, I think that's really where I'm excited to see the fridges are sticking around, because they got started because we had challenges with access. So if you want to go to the next slide, so really the goal of why we have and where we put them. So the fridges are really just a standard refrigerator. So where do we put them? Where are people? The first one was outside, and it was, as you could see, it was outside in an urban farm area. We actually had to move that one. That was some of the lessons learned. One of where our fridges, and one of the biggest lessons we learned was co-locating is great. So libraries have been a really great partner. Actually, that top picture on the left with the gentleman in the glass front refrigerator, that's the Perry Library in Perry, Iowa. You can see it's a beautiful fridge. Really, the fridges usually are just a standard refrigerator that you get from, there's no special refrigerator. It's just a regular refrigerator from like Lowe's or Home Depot. So we've been putting them medical clinics, community centers. I know Jonathan, one of my colleagues, just got one in a laundromat. So apartment complexes, really anywhere, again, there are people, we will put a fridge. So if you go to the next slide, challenges, let's just get it. What about safety? Everyone is freaked out. I get it. This is not how we are used to doing food rescue and food access. We are used to policing everything, making sure nobody gets too much, making sure that nobody takes, the wrong things, making sure that everything's safe. All of those things are really valuable, but it's also, this isn't a one size fits all kind of solution. So the community refrigerators, they might not be for everyone. For folks who are really concerned about managing what goes in and goes out, this isn't probably the best fit for you. So a lot of times we get questions about, well, what if someone poisons the food? Okay, that could happen. Is there a reason why it would only happen at a fridge? If someone wants to poison food, there are lots of places and lots of ways to do that. You can do that at any buffet. So again, we're trying to not make choices to not do anything because of the off chance that maybe, if someone was poisoning food, then we would hear about it and that would be a bigger issue. Same thing with, the guidelines for the fridge are that it should be safely packaged, date labeled, and then have any allergens or ingredients on it. And those are really keys we're just providing the direction to get things started. But the other big piece of this is we're trusting people's autonomy. I think there's always a lot of concern about, well, what if someone shows up and there's no food in it? That's very likely to happen. It is not a food pantry. That's what we're also trying to make sure that these fridges, they are not a replacement for a food pantry or a food bank or anything else. Really, they are an addition and just adding more infrastructure all over the community. Because when we started our food rescue program, that was a huge challenge. Was we have all these places and all these people that need food, but they don't always have infrastructure. And so community refrigerators have been one of our solutions there. And I will say that one picture down there on the right, that's actually a 3D printed device that a high schooler created for us that tracks the temperature and humidity of the fridge. So if it got unplugged, if the door got left open, whoever is signed up would get an alert to say, hey, check on the fridge. It also tracks the number of times the door has been opened and closed. So that's how we're able to track utilization. If you want to move to the next slide for getting started. So the big key here is location, location, location. I have talked to many, many people about starting fridges. Not every location is a good fit. Not every location wants one. And that's what, for us too, is we weren't, and the goal here isn't to force fridges, it's to offer them as an opportunity. So any of the fridges that we have placed anywhere, it's because that community and location wanted it, not because we came in and said they should have it. So making sure that there's a power source. If you want to have the Wi-Fi, the Raspberry Pi device runs off of Wi-Fi. Do you have space or shelving for non-perishables? There are some fridges that don't. That's fine. It's just a fridge outside of a library. There's others that have shelves and stable places there. And then room for trash and recycling. The best part is, I think, the shared ownership. And what we have found, and I know this is kind of a question Victoria had asked about the existing community, is if this is seen as somebody's fridge, whether it's the organizations, like if it was Eat Greater Des Moines' fridge or anyone, it's their fridge. And then they are the ones that take care of it. No one else feels like they can help. When we set them up as a community fridge, we are very open to say, this is for everybody. There are no and people are really taken aback to be like, I can really just take food there? Absolutely. So, our main ground rules are privacy. You'll see the only picture we had was of that gentleman was actually a person who worked there. We do not, I call it poverty porn. That's maybe not the nicest, but we're not going to use these fridges and the people there to market and sell. We've only promoted one fridge, and then I never did it again because they're for that community. The last thing we want is people traveling from another community and getting there and there's no food. It's also, if we need to put one, they're welcome to. It's just, again, we don't want to guaranteed, because fridges aren't a guarantee. They're not like the food pantry. So there is autonomy. There's no judgment. You can take as much as you need, take as much as, and that's sometimes where there are challenges, because people are really used to policing how much people get. And really kind of how we approach it is anyone taking food out of this fridge is helping us all out. And if someone is taking what you consider a lot, let's also remember, you don't know anything about them. You don't know how big their family is. You don't know who else they're sharing with. All of this food was going to go in the garbage. So again, we're going to fill it back up. We're going to put more in there, but we're really trying to break away from this scarcity mindset, because I think really what community fridges and what we're trying to see is there's more than enough food here for everybody. We have a logistics issue. So if we're able to figure out the logistics and the caring issue, for these places that have the food and won't throw it away, our hope is that with these fridges, once we get all of these food donors to say yes, having fridges everywhere will just make it easier for food to go into more spots. So my action items, if you want to look at that last one, were, and I'm happy to, Eat Greater Des Moines actually has a toolkit on their website that you can download. I've also done an updated version of ours of toolkit. You're welcome to reach out to me. Really, I would say too is just look online. RVA community fridges. There's a lot of different groups that are doing it, and they've been really inspiring to help us with either challenges that they've run into or other things that they're dealing with. And I will say, I know there's a question here about, are the fridges open 24/7? It depends on the location. So we have 3 locations that are open 24/7 because they're outside. But we also, the other locations, because if it's a library, it's only available when the library is open. The same thing with schools. We don't put those on our community fridge listing because that community is the school community. You can't have people from outside. And in the schools, we actually call them activities fridges because they're for anyone who's there for an activity. And we've had really great luck working with high school students who are creating the marketing, the materials to help. Again, this fridge isn't for people in need. This fridge is for anybody who needs it, and if you're nearby. So they're doing a really good job of helping us reframe that this isn't just food for needy people. This is food for anybody who's hungry and needs it and is nearby. So that's it for me.
Yes, thank you all so much. I so appreciate it, and I love that there's so much food dignity in each of these models and each of these stories, and you've all made space for, hey, it might be different for different communities. Let's be open to hearing back from that. You also really made some really important points around, how we do this in innovative ways and kind of solve the needs that are in front of us. Thank you all so much. We're going to set up for our keynote, and that'll be coming to you in just a few minutes. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.